side. Joining us now to talk about the potential impact of celebrity endorsements or their withdrawal in this case, Areva Martin. She's a Harvard grad, award-winning attorney, and Democratic delegate for the great state of California. Thanks for being with us. Listen, there is reporting out there to suggest that George Clooney called President Obama before publishing this essay. And people reading the tea leaves said, well, listen, you wouldn't have called Obama if you didn't value his opinion. And perhaps Obama didn't stand in the way or encourage you not to do it, which certainly he could have done if this private phone call did indeed take place. So when someone with that kind of profile and deep pockets who consulted with the man who made Joe his VP years ago still went ahead and published his essay, what do you make of what it took for George Clooney to do that? Does it open the door for other Hollywood actors to do the same? And does the Hollywood voice matter?
Well, I'm disappointed in George Clooney, and if there is reporting that somehow George Clooney got the blessing of President Barack Obama, I'm even more disappointed. Look, we are a party, and we are a party with certain principles and values, and this election is about preserving those principles and values, and anyone that purports to be a leader of this party or a major donor of this party needs to, I think, be more disciplined in their messaging and do what's going to be necessary to defeat Donald Trump in November. All of these op-ed pieces, all of these calls for Biden to step aside without taking into account the reality that our convention is about 30 days away, that this election is about 100+ days away, to me, it's just a lot of noise and distractions. So we get rid of Joe Biden. Then what is the process for having someone at the top of our ticket that can beat Donald Trump? How do we put together a campaign team? How does that new team finance a campaign against Donald Trump with less than 100 days coming out of the Democratic convention? How do they win over the necessary delegates to even become the party, become the candidate that would lead the ticket? There's so many legal and practical hurdles that none of these people who are calling for Biden to step aside are even considering. So if you're not going to be serious about what it takes to run a national campaign and to win, then I think you, quite frankly, should just keep your opinion to yourself. You can have it, but it's not helpful at this point.
So even if people did ignore just the avalanche of concerns around President Biden, especially since that debate, celebrities, show business executives, they hold a lot of power through their donations, which some are now withholding. So when you take a look at the big picture, what kind of dent will this make to the Biden-Harris campaign, if any, because they do have a pretty large war chest?
I think no dent. And the statement that George Clooney made that Joe Biden is losing to Donald Trump, that's just not accurate. A poll out this morning in the Washington Post says pretty much the race is the same. They are neck and neck. And to suggest that Joe Biden is going to lose because at this point in the election in July, when the two candidates are running neck and neck, again, it's just preposterous. Yes, Hollywood has a lot of money, but guess what? There are a lot of other people in this country that have money. There are a lot of other people that believe in this team, the Biden-Harris team, what they've done for this country, and want to see them have a second term. So I'm not at all swayed by the opinion pieces, by the loud voices, because we know they do not reflect the voters. Millions of people went to the polls in the primaries and voted for Joe Biden. So are we to overthrow the will of the people? Are we to say the votes in those primaries have no meaning, have no value? That's not democracy. So the donors, yes, they play a role in campaigns, but they are not the only voice that we should listen to. And the voice of the voters have spoken, and they spoke by voting in the primary for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris.
And just to be clear, the Washington Post poll that you referenced, that was kind of a popular vote poll that shows them both tied at 46%. As you well know, popular vote is important, but it's not how we pick our president. And some of the state-by-state polling in the battleground states do suggest that Trump is up in those states and that the lead has widened in the aftermath of the debate and in the middle of this ongoing discussion within the Democratic Party about whether Biden should stay at the top of the ticket. Just want that part to be clear. Your opinion is clear on this from a practical matter, from a will of the voters matter. I hear you loud and clear. Is that to say that you have 100% confidence in the health of President Joe Biden?
Absolutely. He had one bad night. Did anyone play publicly the speech he gave yesterday before the AFL-CIO? that speech was as coherent, as persuasive as any speech could ever be given. And let's go back to Chris Coons. Chris Coons makes the ultimate point. The double standard here, the way that legacy media is trashing Joe Biden, calling the debate disastrous for Joe Biden, but not calling out the lies, repeated lies that Donald Trump makes. The editorial board for the New York Times wrote an op-ed, wrote in their editorial piece that Joe Biden should step aside. Today they come out and say Donald Trump is unfit to be president, but we're not hearing calls for him to step aside at the top of the Republican ticket. To me, the debate was disastrous when we watched Donald Trump tell what someone has called 600 lies in 40 minutes. So both of these candidates, if you're going to criticize one, let's be fair in the criticism. And if you look at the legacy media, the reporting on both of these candidates, it is far from fair. There's so much focus on Joe Biden, even leading into the segment. He has to be perfect tonight at this press conference. When is that the standard for any presidential or any candidate whatsoever? When is perfection the standard that any candidate has to meet? When we have a candidate in Donald Trump who literally at a rally earlier this week said he wants to give the death penalty to individuals who are drug dealers. And then he mocked a family member, a mother, looking at her son be executed, and cheers. People were clapping. And that is what we want in the president of the United States, a convicted criminal that mocks someone being executed. So I think we should be more fair and balanced in the reporting on these two candidates. Yes, Joe Biden had what some would call a bad night at that debate, but so did Donald Trump.
And I hear you on that point, but then also people say it was Biden's opportunity to push back against those lies at the debate, to fight back. People wanted to see, his supporters wanted to see him fight in that moment on stage with a convicted felon known for having a loose relationship with the truth. And people did not see the fight that night. And that was the root issue.
Okay, Rob, you didn't see the fight in one night. You're going to judge an entire campaign by the performance on one debate stage? Joe Biden is not a great debater. We can agree to that. But he has been an incredible administrator. He's been an incredible president. He has led this country through some of its most difficult times. What he has done for this country is the record that we should be voting on, not one performance on one night. If that is the standard, Donald Trump should never, ever have been in the White House. His performances every day when he speaks, when he opens his mouth, is disastrous. And that's the part of this that I think is really frustrating for a lot of voters, is this hyper focus on Joe Biden's one night and the lack of focus on the continuous statements, the racist statements, the homophobic statements, the xenophobic statements that Donald Trump states, reiterates, confirms, affirms on a daily basis. The black job comment, do you know how much airtime that got? Do you know how racist that was for him to say that immigrants are taking black jobs? What is a black job? Is a black job the job that I have as a civil rights attorney? Is a black job the job that a janitor in a hotel has? That is such a racist statement, and that has received so little attention by the media. That is the person who wants to be the president of this country, basically demeaned 30, 40 million African Americans in this country. Those are the kinds of issues I'd like to see us focus on.
All right, Democratic Delegate Areva Martin, thank you so much for your time and your insight. We truly appreciate it. We'll be right back.